Alright, what is up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Swoom's Hot Takes, I guess we're calling it, where I basically go through pretty vanilla, fairly innocuous looking cards that don't show up on people's radars. These are going to be cards that aren't champions, cards that aren't flashy spells. You probably didn't see a lot of these cards during the beta periods in decks that you might have seen people play or played against, but these are cards that nonetheless I think exist at the very least on the competitive level. You know, maybe these aren't, you know, meta swingers, but these are cards that are able to be found in deck building. So let's go ahead and jump in with 3 mana cards. I don't really know why I'm organizing this way, but today we're doing a few 3 mana cards that I think are pretty powerful. First one up is, of course, Scaled Snapper and Golden Crushbot. So I'm gonna go ahead and do these basically together because they're, you know, both 3 mana 2/5s basically. And these are cards that I rated pretty high on my tier list. I gave them both effectively 8s, which means they're power cards. You're gonna see them as kind of like a tech option in a lot of decks. So basically the reasoning for this is that a 3 mana 2/5 is a really effective stat line. 2 attack is kind of all you need against like most sorts of things in the early game, and these will basically always trade for 2 different units against some kind of aggressive deck, right? So effectively they're anti-aggro tools. Now, you might ask why I'm evaluating Scaled Snapper and Golden Crushbot together, because you might say, well, Scaled Snapper has the ability to be a 5/2 instead. Isn't it obviously better? And at the end of the day, not really, no. You're playing it because of its 3 mana 2/5 stat line, and you're going to be playing whichever one of the color that you're in. Like if you're an Ione deck, you play Snapper. If you're a Piltover and Zon deck, you play Crushbot, right? Snapper is, I guess technically, like, you will on pretty rare occasion use the 5/2 stat line, but that's very rare, and when that happens, it's not really going to be swinging you the game, right? You're going to be using that when you already control the board. So by definition, like, even if you're finding a weird situation where you'd rather have a 5/2 than a 2/5, it's going to less often, you know, give you control of the game. Whereas if you're against an aggro deck, you know, those circumstances where every time this 3 mana 2/5 will always trade for 2 units will have a pretty amazing impact in terms of the ability to just outright stabilize your board and win you the game, which makes both of these cards pretty clear winners in my eyes. They're both pretty fantastic anti-aggro cards. You don't really need them if you've got a deck list that doesn't really need to improve an aggro win rate or anything like that, but it's a pretty incredibly phenomenal stat line, especially considering sometimes they trade for 3 different things. Anything that has 2 attack, well, you know, this will basically be able to eat 3 of, which is really, really impressive. And the other card that I had that is going to be a 3 mana card that I think is pretty severely underrated is Avarosan Marksman. I didn't think very much of this card when I first started playing this game, and you know, I looked at it in the deck builds and I was like, seems a little overcosted, but because of the nature of this game, because, you know, it's defender's advantage more so like Magic, and there's no, like, you know, pings, there's not a lot of ways to deal 1 damage, especially if you're in like Freljord, you know, depending on whether you have access to Shadow Isles. Shadow Isles has, you know, pretty much all the ways to deal 1 damage. Freljord doesn't really have a lot, so Marksman is a pretty great trader. You know, there's a lot of situations where something's going to be at 1 health, you can just ping it out, right? This is a card that just finds places in certain deck lists as kind of like a curve smoothener, sort of like a utility tech card, you know, might just allow you to finish off enemy units or kill very pesky units that are able to exist at 1 health elusive, like Green Glade Duo in aggro decks is going to be a fairly common example, or even, of course, Teemo in Piltover and Zon, who is, you know, a lot of people don't think very much of this card, but he's actually a pretty alright card for fairly aggressive lists. If you build his list properly, he can actually be a little scary, and Marksman is a great way to clean up a lot of threats with a pretty fair stat line for this 3 mana. So I expect to see him definitely seeing play in some decks. And that's it for me, though. This was episode 2 of Swim's Hot Takes. This is probably gonna be a lot more so how most of them are gonna be. The first one was kind of weird. We spent like 10 minutes going in depth on like math and probability, and that kind of thing is fun. But most cards I won't need to do that level of analysis on. It's just very unique to the idea of Elmox themselves. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'll see you guys next time. Say goodbye, Wisp. Say goodbye. Bye.